Hello, I'm Evely and I will tell you one story. Let's go. In a secluded valley hidden from the modern world where time seemed to stand still beneath an ever-darkening sky, a most unnatural event took place. Under a blood-red eclipse that drenched the land in a ghastly, otherworldly light, a child was born in an abandoned farmhouse at the edge of nowhere. This was no ordinary birth. It was as if the universe had conspired to herald the arrival of a being destined to upend hope itself. His first cry split the silence of the night, a sound that carried the echo of anguished souls and foretold a lifetime steeped in terror. From his earliest moments, the infant's eyes shone with an unsettling intensity, a paradoxical blend of fragile innocence and ageless malevolence. His adoptive parents, two lost souls trying to salvage remnants of light in a darkened existence, could never have guessed that their long-awaited miracle was in fact the harbinger of calamity. They named him Kal-Var, a name that resonated with grim prophecy and whispered secrets of doom. Even as a baby, he would stare unblinkingly into the darkness as though communicating with unseen entities beyond mortal ken. Kal-Var's childhood was marked by a succession of inexplicable occurrences. In the creaking halls of the dilapidated farmhouse, objects moved on their own and soft, unintelligible voices murmured in the dead of night. While other children laughed in sunlit fields, he roamed the shadowed corners of the old barn, tracing mysterious symbols in the dust with his tiny fingers. His laughter, when it erupted, was not the merry sound of youth but a hollow, eerie echo that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who overheard it. Neighbors whispered of his uncanny ability to vanish from sight, leaving behind only a chill that lingered long after he was gone. As the years passed and Kal-Var reached adolescence, the latent darkness within him began to unfurl with terrifying clarity. His eyes, already unnervingly perceptive, evolved to possess the power to see through walls and even into the very souls of those he encountered. Late at night, as fog crept along the cracked pavements of the nearby town, those who chanced upon him described feeling as though their deepest fears were being laid bare. One fateful evening, when a violent storm ravaged the valley, Kal-Var stepped into the tempest's heart. Amid the cacophony of howling winds and crashing thunder, his eyes ignited with an unearthly glow and a surge of primal power coursed through his veins. In that moment, as lightning split the sky and the earth trembled beneath his feet, he unleashed an energy that obliterated everything in its path, reducing buildings to rubble and leaving survivors writhing in inexplicable agony. In the aftermath of that night, the once peaceful valley was transformed into a landscape of horror. Rumors spread like wildfire. A being of unimaginable strength and cruelty was on the loose. Entire families began to vanish without a trace. Doors were found ajar in the cold light of dawn, and bizarre symbols were scrawled in blood upon the walls of abandoned homes. Whispers of an ancient curse, long dormant, found new life in the fearful hearts of the townspeople. They spoke of Kal-Var as though he were a dark deity risen from the depths of forgotten nightmares, a monstrous force destined to reclaim a world they could no longer recognize. But it was not only his physical might that struck terror into the hearts of the living, it was the profound transformation of his very soul. As Kal-Var matured, the last vestiges of human empathy withered away, replaced by an insatiable hunger for destruction. In his eyes, once filled with the potential for wonder, now burned an icy, merciless fury. His actions became deliberate, each act of violence executed with a precision that suggested not madness but an unholy, calculated purpose. In a ruined church on a night when the blood moon reigned supreme, he performed a ritual so grotesque that even the very walls seemed to recoil in despair. Amid shattered stained glass and echoing screams, Kal-Var cast off any pretense of a savior and embraced his destiny as a dark titan, a predator devoid of conscience, who delighted in the suffering of those who dared to hope. Beyond the immediate carnage, Kal-Var's influence began to warp reality itself. Those unfortunate enough to cross his path spoke of time bending and the very air growing thick with dread. In one horrifying incident, a group of wanderers found themselves trapped within the decaying corridors of an ancient cathedral. As they struggled to escape a labyrinth where the walls shifted and whispered in forgotten tongues, a soft, sinister laughter, half man, half phantom, echoed around them. It was then they realized that Kal-Var was not merely a force of brute strength, he was a master manipulator of the very fabric of existence, orchestrating despair with the precision of a dark conductor. In the weeks that followed, the terror of Kal-Var's presence spread far beyond the valley. Travelers and scholars, drawn by a mix of dread and morbid curiosity, ventured into the heart of his domain, never to return. Some claimed to have seen spectral figures drifting among the ruins. Others heard disembodied voices reciting cryptic verses in languages older than time. With every vanishing and every whispered tale of despair, the legend of Kal-Var grew. A grim reminder that the world was slipping inexorably into an age where hope would be devoured by darkness. Yet, even amid the chaos, there were moments that hinted at a tortured, enigmatic mind behind the cruelty. In rare, fleeting instants, those who looked into his eyes swore they saw a glimmer of something resembling remorse, a silent, almost imperceptible acknowledgement of an inner torment too profound for any mortal to bear. But such moments were as transient as the dying light at dusk, quickly swallowed by the vast, unyielding void that was Kal-Var's soul. As the land around him descended further into madness and despair, a sense of inevitability began to seep into every heart. The night grew longer, and the stars seemed to shudder in fear at the mere mention of his name. The fabric of reality was rent asunder by the dark energy he exuded, a relentless force that promised no salvation, only a future drenched in blood and sorrow. As the dark energies of Kal-Var permeated the land, the world itself began to unravel beneath the weight of his sinister influence. In cities once teeming with life, a palpable malaise had settled, a thick, suffocating atmosphere of despair that drained color from every corner of existence. The skies, now a ceaseless expanse of bruised purple and ashen gray, bore silent witness to the reign of a being who had long abandoned the light of hope. Kal-Var, the embodiment of corruption and cruelty, had evolved into an unstoppable force, a twisted mirror image of the hero he might once have been. With each passing day, his power grew. Rumors began to circulate of an unholy transformation. It was said that Kal-Var had discovered a forbidden reservoir of energy buried deep within his own soul, one that conferred upon him not only immense physical might but also a terrible mastery over the fabric of reality. In secluded laboratories and underground sanctums, mad scientists and occultists alike endeavored to unravel the mystery of his unnatural ascent, only to be driven to madness by cryptic visions and spectral whispers that promised an apocalypse of unfathomable scale. One chilly autumn night, in a city where every street lamp flickered like the dying heartbeat of civilization, Kal-Var descended upon a grand metropolis. The assault was as sudden as it was brutal. He moved like a specter through the urban labyrinth, a blur of motion that defied logic and left devastation in his wake. Towering skyscrapers crumbled as if built of brittle glass, their shattered remnants scattering like broken dreams in the wind. The once vibrant hum of modern life was replaced by the agonized cries of the forsaken, echoing in the empty corridors of abandoned buildings. In the midst of this chaos, a small band of survivors gathered in the ruins of an ancient subway station, desperately clinging to the hope of resistance. They whispered legends of a prophesied savior, a being born from light who could counter the darkness. But as Kal-Var's twisted power surged and the earth itself seemed to moan under the strain of his malice, it became chillingly apparent that no force in the cosmos could stand against him. Every attempt at organized resistance was met with an overwhelming display of power. A flash of unholy light here, a thunderous shockwave there, and with every strike, more souls were swallowed by the abyss. Yet, amid the relentless carnage, there emerged a series of events so unexpected that even the damned seemed momentarily transfixed. In the deepest hours of a moonless night, as Kal-Var stood amid a battlefield of twisted metal and shattered stone, a sudden fissure tore through the very fabric of space and time. From it emerged phantasmal figures, ancient beings whose existence predated mortal memory, their forms both magnificent and grotesque. They circled Kal-Var in a macabre dance, their voices merging into a cacophony of ancient lamentations. It was as if the universe itself had gathered to reckon with the aberration that Kal-Var had become. For a breathless moment, the killer of worlds paused, caught in the gravitational pull of forces that defied human comprehension. This brief interlude of cosmic uncertainty gave rise to yet another horrifying twist. The spectral beings, whose intentions remained shrouded in ambiguity, began to siphon off fragments of Kal-Var's malignant power. With each passing second, he grew weaker, his malevolent aura flickering like a dying flame in the chill of the void. But the struggle was far from over. Enraged by this intrusion into his dark dominion, Kal-Var summoned the full force of his unholy might. A cataclysmic energy burst radiated from his being, shattering the spectral host and sending shockwaves rippling through the dimensions. The ancient beings recoiled into the fissure, leaving behind an eerie silence that was quickly replaced by a renewed, more frenzied onslaught. As the struggle raged on, the boundaries between nightmare and reality blurred. Ordinary citizens, already haunted by spectral apparitions and twisted visions, found themselves dragged into surreal landscapes where time and space lost all meaning. Entire neighborhoods were transfigured into labyrinthine prisons of shifting walls and echoing cries, a realm where every step could lead to unspeakable terror. In one such district, a grieving mother, her face etched with despair, encountered a mirror image of her lost child. Yet this was no reunion of joy. The figure's hollow eyes and rasping whisper revealed the grim truth: her child was now one of the lost souls enslaved to Kal-Var's relentless hunger for destruction. In a desperate bid for control, remnants of humanity turned to the occult. Secret societies and esoteric cults, long relegated to the fringes of superstition, emerged from the shadows to wage clandestine wars against the overwhelming darkness. They gathered in hidden temples beneath crumbling cathedrals, performing arcane rites in a futile attempt to contain the force that Kal-Var had unleashed. But each incantation, each ritual, seemed only to further enrage the cosmic entity. For every spell cast to bind him, 100 more acts of carnage erupted in his wake. The world was caught in a vicious cycle of hope and despair, a ticking clock set to the rhythm of an ever-deepening nightmare. In the final, harrowing chapters of this grim saga, the fate of the world hung in the balance. As Kal-Var continued his relentless march of devastation, the skies roiled with unnatural storms and the earth itself shuddered as if in agony. The final confrontation loomed, a collision between the remnants of humanity and the monstrous legacy of a once potential hero turned abomination. It was in this crucible of fear and defiance that the true nature of Kal-Var was to be revealed, a tragic figure whose power was born of cosmic aberration, whose every destructive act was laced with a profound sorrow that no mortal could ever understand. And so, as darkness swallowed the last vestiges of a dying world, a solitary, bloodied figure stood atop the ruins, a final testament to the agony of existence and a silent herald of the void that would soon claim all. In the maddening stillness that followed, only one thought echoed in the shattered minds of the survivors: the nightmare was not over, it had merely taken on a new, more terrible form. Thank you very much and see you all in the next video.